that's my process. You know, if you're a business owner, I think this gives you an idea of how to go through and audit your business. If you are an SEO, I think this might give you some insight into what you can do. What is going on, local SEO land? Yeah, this is Joshua Thompson, Joshua D. Thompson, as I've been using lately, from Brightbeam SEO, Bluebird Capital. Just, I thought it would be interesting to go through today my onboarding process and optimization process, little from the broad strokes. Just like, what do I do? What do me and my team do when we are going through a new client so we can set the local SEO foundation and make sure that they, you know, are going to be able to get going on the right foot. I find so many people are set up incorrectly. And if you don't have a thorough process to make sure the foundation doesn't have any cracks in it, it's difficult to build off of. So I might go into a little bit of detail around specific checklists or action items, but for the most part, this is meant to just be an overview of the process I use from start to finish during that first 3 to 6 week time period where we're getting a customer going, optimized, and doing all of those pieces. Should include that 3 to 6 weeks typically includes a lot of website design work. This is probably a 2 to 3 week process if there's no website involved. So cool. Well, yeah, so let me jump here into this. And kind of go through this. So I use Todoist. I like it. I've tried other more intense types of tasks management softwares, and it just is too much. I like simple. So this is what I duplicate though for each new customer, and then we go through this process, me and my team. So I like to have a sticky task up here where I can put links to all of the different important documents so they're easy just to find right there. Now, what I start with is creating folders in our Google Drive, right? I like to just go through, create all the folders that we're going to need in the future. And then I create all the documents that we're going to need to fill out over the course of the onboarding so that they're all just there and ready to go. And then I like to start by adding keyword tracking in Local Brand Manager, which is what I'm using right now. And the point of that is I want to make sure that we get a foundation right off the bat where the customer is ranking on the primary keywords that we know are going to be important, so that as we make these changes, we can see what's going to make a fast change to the business rankings, what's a slower change, and we get that baseline really before we've done anything of where the customer is ranking for those keywords. I think that is so important to do. Then we come here to the DBA and name change. Now, I don't take this lightly. As you can see, this is a team leader task. I typically do this with one of my top SEOs. And what we do is we go through, we create a whole list of potential keywords that we want to rank for. We do all the research. We determine where is the customer located, what's their range they're trying to rank in, and then we help them shape or adjust the name of the Google business profile, getting a DBA, getting signage right, and shaping that properly so that we can maximize the potential for the business. Really quick, this is Joshua D. Thompson here, owner, founder of Brightbeam SEO. if you want a free video audit for your business, you want to see exactly what's working, what's not working, what you could do differently to move up in your local SEO ranks and really dominate, send me an email, joshua@brightbeamseo.com. Say free video audit. Let me know your business name. We'll get that started for you. Now back to the video. Now, some people do this, some people don't. I am very education heavy, so I make sure anybody we work with knows exactly what has to happen so that we can actually be using this business name. You know, I'm not here to mess with the system. So, I mean, signage, utility bills, everything needs to be under that name, right? But this is just too important to overlook. So that is one of the first steps that we take with a new business. Cool. Then we approve it by the client, right? And I have steps in here for approval because I found that to be really important. Next is the client sheet. So the client sheet is what we call basically our base document for each client. And this is where we keep all of the information for a client, including their name, their DBA, their address. There's just too much that has to be exact when it comes to local SEO. You get a letter wrong, you get a number wrong, and you could ruin everything that you do. Not to mention that, but there sometimes can be a lot of automation involved, right? Or big orders, right? If a customer's ordering yard signs, it costs them $5,000. Or if you're ordering citations, right? You have to make sure everything is exact. So I don't leave anything to chance. We kind of put everything on this document for our clients, including login information, important links, the name of their company, exactly how we want it. And we don't type anything out. We are copy and paste, right? Everything we do, we want to make sure that we're copying and pasting from that sheet. So that is kind of the lifeblood of what we're doing. Then after that, confirm we have Google Business Profile and website access, right? And then we start our categories and services list process. And so what this is once again, I don't want to leave anything up to chance. So this category and services list is simply our first step here, where we go through and we list out what are all of the primary categories that we might consider if there is more than one for the business. What are all the secondary categories? We go through competitors, national, local competitors, right? Use AI to ask what other options there might be. I want to get a giant list and then cut it down. So we want to have a list of all the cities, all the categories, all the services, and this can get really, really long. Then I want to cut out what's obviously not going to work. And then what we do is we send this list to the customer and let them go through and tell us what they do or don't do. I just find this to be really important. You will miss too many things. Too many people. I find business owners themselves don't often know what other terms are being searched around their business that they could be targeting because they haven't bothered to look. There's just so many instances of that. So that is the next step here, is this categories and services list. That leads me to our website pages plan. Once we have the clients confirmed this category and services, now we're going to go through and we're going to match up every service to every keyword, every service to every city, and find all of the keywords. So the way that I like to do this is I like to use Hrefs. You've probably seen this in a lot of my other videos. We go through and we get every single keyword that is going to be related to the client. And I'm just going to make a giant list, 50, 100, I don't care. It goes on the list. And then we take that information and we use it to make our full sitemap. So we'll go through, we make, here's a home page, here's the keyword we're targeting, here's the secondary keywords, here's the slug it's going to have, here's the page title, the H1. And not only does this kind of give us a way to organize everything and know what we're going to be creating in the future, it also lets me go through and see what are all the pages that we're making for a client, and I can make quick adjustments to this before we make those pages to make sure there's no problems, right? So it's a really good way to overview what's going to end up on a website without getting without having to go through every single page on a website, and to make a plan. I'm a big believer in making long plans. I want to know what we're doing for the next 6 months, if possible. So that's where the website pages plan comes into place. We approve that internally, and then we go through Google Business Profile Audit. This is pretty thorough as well. There's a lot of things we don't change directly, right? Or that we want to make sure if we're going to change, we understand the implications, the customer understands the implications. So you can see here, we go through the business name, right? Does it need a change? We don't change it directly. Primary category, list the secondary categories, go through the description, go through the opening date, right? So we go through this entire list and make sure we have everything we need filled out. And then we go through the products last and then the services and make sure everything. And if I don't have that website pages, if I don't have those plans done, right, around what services we offer and what we don't, then I can't finish this. So I want to do as much of this as I can when I'm doing it. So I want to make sure I have that full scope of services from the client checked off, right? So that becomes very important. So Google Business Profile Audit and Optimization, we approve that. This is the stop where we'll wait. If we're doing a website design, we want to wait till that's completed before we go any further. And then we have Google Analytics and Google Search Console, making sure those are set up. We add our keywords and our tracking into Ahrefs. And then comes the website audit and optimization, which is another kind of big process. You can see here that each of these we go through on each page for the most part. We're going to go through and make sure the title, the meta description, all of that is correct, that we have testimonials, FAQ, we have the right structures, right? We're going to go through basically all of this and make sure it all works. And then, yeah, we could be going through this on every page that we offer it on as well. So that's the audit and optimization of the website. Pass that off again. Then we go add the content. So we typically, I like to front load our SEO. I want to try to get 20 to 30 pages of content on the website as soon as possible. So we'll go in and add those 20 to 30 initial content pages right there to make sure we have plenty of content for Google to start indexing and for us to start ranking. So that's that next step here. That's a long time, even though it is one step, right? It's a lot of work. Now, this is something we've added recently, adding a FAQ page to each website. Since Google got rid of the Q&As on the Google Business Profile, I've found it to be very helpful to go add an FAQ page to the website, right? So under one of the navigation menus, you'll just have an FAQ page that when people visit, right, it'll just have a running FAQ that we can add frequently asked questions to, and it helps Google gather that information, and it'll often use a lot of that information on the Google Business Profile in a lot of those questions that it will ask. So that's been very helpful. Then we'll go through and make sure the local business schema is correct and update that. And then what I like to do is I want to make sure we're way ahead, right? I want to make sure that with Google Business Profile posts and Google Business Profile images, that we have 2 months of information in there ready to go. So that next month, I don't have to be in a rush to try to get another Google Business Profile post up. I have all month to do the next 4 or 5, all month again to do the next 5, and it becomes a batch. I've really tried to get rid of anything that has to be done every day, right? Like I have somebody special who helps respond to reviews, right? That kind of stuff, because I find that if I'm an SEO and my job, the first thing I do every day when I come in is do a bunch of small tasks. I get in that habit of doing these little tinkering tasks, right? Small things, instead of sitting down and doing the 5 things today or the 3 things today that are going to have the biggest impact for the customer long term. So that's why I want to batch things. I want to do things in bulk one time. If it takes me 4 hours, 8 hours, 2 days, then I don't want to touch it again. So Google Business Profile posts and images, we schedule those out and have those ready to go. So they'll just release, and I do those from Local Brand Manager, but there's a lot of tools to do that. Then we have a final check where we go through everything and make sure everything is good. And then we send our final email to the customer. I guess this all starts with an email to the customer as well that explains the process. And then, yeah, at the end here, right, it's a citations email. It says, here's the 7 citations we want to make sure that we get no matter what. And they can go get those and have them under their control. That's the last thing I'll say is control. I want customers to have control. I don't like to keep things locked away. I think a lot of the bigger companies, that's their motivation, is to try to have a website that at the end of the day you don't own, or citations you don't own, this kind of stuff. It makes it just a hassle too. So I don't do any of that. And I think citations, I want the customer to go and get those and get like a BBB subscription if they can afford it, and a local chamber of commerce, and then maybe even get involved. I mean, those are helpful for a reason. You can get involved there. And then, the last task is just setting up our tasks for our regularly scheduled tasks in here in Todoist. So that's my process. You know, if you're a business owner, I think this gives you an idea of how to go through and audit your business. If you are an SEO, I think this might give you some insight into what you can do. And look, I'm big on cutting out the garbage, right? There's just so many little tiny things that you can get lost in. I want to do those, right? I want to do technical fixes and everything, but there's a time and a place for it. I don't want to spend every day starting my day off with technical fixes that then take up my whole day, and I end up doing that more than building assets. The end of the day, optimizing everything and building assets, that's what makes it. October, optimize content, backlinks, reviews. Optimize content, backlinks, reviews. Content, backlinks, and reviews, those are the things that last forever. That is assets. That's the core. So this process helps us prepare, get some of those assets going, make sure everything is in place. There's no cracks in the foundation, because if you try to build on cracks, right, it's not going to work. You're going to find yourself fighting against the current. So yeah, thought this might be an interesting or helpful video. Let me know if you have any questions. See ya.